Welcome to another episode of Create.Learn.Implement podcast, aka CLI podcast. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Today on the podcast, we have Porcia Boateng, who is a licensed mortgage agent and credit coach. She is someone I'm sure we all needed at one point in our lives, especially people of color, right? This is a conversation we need to have because she dropped some major gems on the episode. So take this, and I really want you guys to pass this episode on to a friend. I want you guys to like, comment, share, because this was very powerful. So stay tuned for Portia on the other side. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions, like how do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. So when I thought about doing starting a podcast, I had no idea how it worked. I don't know how I came across Anchor, but I did, and it was free, and it was 100% easy to use. And I love to use it to connect to my audience. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Are you tired of living in a state of lack and always wondering when it will be your turn to live in abundance? Well, join me for the 2-day Money Principles series on October 5th and 6th, where I'll teach you how to improve and build your relationship with money. After all, it is your actions that determine your money flow. So if you're ready to change your money game, then this class is for you. Hit the link in our show notes to join. Hope to see you there. Thank you. Miss Porcia Boateng, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
I really hate to mess with people's names because mine is so unusual. So I have a thing about that. So thank you so much for being able to be with me today. Your schedule's been busy. We've been going back and forth. So I'm really excited to have you here today to talk to me. All right. So let me just introduce you to my audience. So everybody, this is Porcia Boateng. She's a licensed mortgage agent and credit coach. Porcia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, yes, that's a biggie. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm so honored to be here. Thank you. So my name is Porcia Boateng. I live in Burlington, Ontario. And, I love anything that has to do with legacy, right? And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because I want to evoke change. The way I live my life, one of my guiding principles is that I have to be the change in the world that I want to see. Yeah. So with everything that I do, it has to be aligned with that, because as a mortgage agent, as a credit coach, I also have a nonprofit organization, right? All of those things are avenues that I use to evoke change and to be the change that I want to see. Because if I want the world to be a better place, if I want the youth and the next generation to thrive, then I got to do what I can now to make sure that when they get there, that they're able to have the resources and the things that they need to be able to do what they can to live the life that they were created to live. Because God did not create us to live in scarcity, to live in poverty. He created us to live in abundance. So as long as I can be part of that, I love it. I speak with so much passion because it's just something that's really after my heart.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. I can feel the passion, and it's important to have that, you know, as a human. It just makes working with you more, easier. I would say more feeling, more care. I think
Yeah.
someone would be able to feel that.
Yes.
So absolutely. So let's dive into credit, especially for the Black community. We may not have had those lessons. So tell us why credit is so important, especially when it comes to a mortgage.
Credit is important to anything
Yeah.
because remember, there's, I think that especially, and that's one of the reasons why I got into this credit space, because I've been doing credit and I've been helping people for so long. And I saw a lack and a need in our community,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of us can even resonate. We were told, run away from collection calls. We were told 7 years and it'll be over, right? We were told, who
Yes.
cares?
Yeah.
Leave it. Don't resurrect this. Don't do this. But then we fail to understand that waiting 7 years is putting your dreams on hold for 7 years.
Yeah.
Waiting 7 years is getting you stressed because they're not going to stop calling you. They might stop calling you for a year, but you best believe they're going to call you. So it's like a lot of times we're always running away from something. But I believe that it's time for us to really face it because there's power in leveraging credit, right? And once you understand that, that's when you win this thing called wealth building.
Mhm.
Because if you look at the 1%, you think the 1% have millions of dollars sitting in their account and buying things with money? No, they're leveraging the power of credit to build assets. Because I can have $1 million, they say the lady who won the lottery and lost and squandered, and now she has no more money and she's living back on welfare. If she understood the power of leveraging credit, she could have taken, you know what, I want $2 million. You know what, I can buy my house outright, but I'm not going to do that because I'm more smarter than that. I'm going to leverage credit, get a mortgage on it, right? And then let's say if you have $1 million house, even if you put $500K on that house to lower your mortgage payments, you can do that, right? And then also the rest of the $500K, what can you do with it? You can use it to invest in other things, diversify, drop things all over the place, right? Because credit allows you to be able to borrow other people's money and use other people's money to create assets. Credit was never meant for us to create liabilities. Right. It was meant for us to create assets with it because somebody is giving you their money. You use it. And a lot of times in our community, I'm sorry, but we don't understand what borrowing means.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't get it. Borrowing means that I'm giving you my money, I want it back. Even when your friends borrow you money and you're chasing them around and now they're coming to fight with you and it's your money, okay?
True.
Right? We need to understand that borrowed money needs to be paid off. Whether you can afford minimum or full payments, pay something, right? Because all these things, if you don't take care of it now, your credit can't take care of you if you don't take care of it now, right? If you want long lasting, then you got to do what you need to do and stop running away from collection calls.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, which will disqualify you from a mortgage? Is it no credit, bad credit, or both?
All of those.
Okay, explain what not having credit is versus bad credit, because they're different.
Yes, they are different, but they're kind of seen as the same. Not having credit is bad credit, right? Because not having credit, because a lot of people were also told in our community, hide your money under your pillows, okay? Don't put your money in the bank, hide your money in the pillows, right? Don't get credit because credit is evil, right? So we don't get credit. But the thing is, if a lender wants to borrow you something, they don't know anything about you because lenders use the credit system as a way to measure your character.
Right.
Right? What is your payment patterns? What type of person are you? Are you a person of integrity? Right? Because they make assumptions. Your credit is basically how people are making assumptions of who you are. And I always tell people, don't get angry when what you're presenting is what people are making their decisions about who you are based off of. Right? Because a lender sees that paper and they see collections, no payments, R9, R7, all of these repossessions. What are they going to think? They're going to be like, okay, I don't want, no, that person's not going to get my money.
Yeah.
Because that person is not trustworthy. Right. And that's what it's all about. Because when you have no credit, they don't have anything to measure you off of. Right. But then when you have bad credit, it's the same, because you don't have any established credit. And even especially when you're, let's say, 50 years old and you've been living in this country for, 50 years old, you've been born here, and it's like you've never had credit. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, tell us, how do you create credit? How do you get credit? How do you have credit to then, move on to the next step of getting approved for a mortgage or something of that nature?
Yeah. So just even to say that, mortgage approval is not only based on credit.
Right.
There's so much more, right? There's income, there's other things, right? There's your capacity, your collateral, there's so much more, but credit is one avenue that they look at a lot. So if you're somebody that does not have credit, I will say get something, even if it means going and applying with Capital One to get a secured card, right? Because if you don't have credit, if you never had any credit, you can just apply to one of the credit cards and they might give you a credit card. And if you need to put a collateral on it, you put a collateral to rebuild. But the question is, when you have that credit, how do you manage it? And that's the thing. A lot of us know how to apply for things, but we don't know how to maintain the thing that we just applied for, because we don't have the knowledge and the education of how to use it. Right. And that's what I teach. I have an academy that I'm going to be launching in the summer. That's what I teach. I teach about, now you have the card. Now, how do I maximize it so that I can make this card work for me? Right. So what are some tools that you need to put in place? So if you get your first card, right, don't just think, because, I always tell people, I remember I used to work at one of the banks and I used to be an underwriter. I used to approve MasterCard applications and credit limit increases and loans. And I remember, I will never forget this story, because I was just like, I was shocked. So I had this client, he just turned 18. And you know how, like, I always say that the government needs to get rid of all those booths on the campuses for credit cards. Yeah. Right? Because a lot of times people do it because of the incentive that they're going to get, not knowing that they're affecting themselves in a negative way. Yeah. Right? Especially when you're consistently doing it, all those inquiries are negatively impacting you. True. Right? Just for what? $20 York University gift card for the cast. Right? Yeah. Right? And people do it because, you know what? Listen, it's free food. Yeah, but free food and the means in which you got that free food could cost you. Right? So that's the thing. We have to really understand, what are we doing? You have the card. So with this client, he basically was like, oh, my card is not working. I'm like, okay, so let's look at it. He got the card in less than a month. It was maxed out. Really? It was maxed out. Wow. Because nobody ever taught him. You could tell nobody ever taught him what it means to have credit, because he's just swiping. And now the card is maxed out. He's like, oh, my card is not working. Can I get some more? I'm like, okay, but you can't, you have to, if you want more, you have to pay. Yes. Right? You have to pay so that it can revolve and allow you to use the rest. He's like, oh, I didn't know that. There's so many people that I saw who had gotten, especially 18 years old, because there's a stats right now that people from 18 to 24 have the worst credit, usually sitting about 5 something. And it's because once they got it, because they didn't understand, they just misused it. And a lot of times somebody will get a credit card today. In the next 3 months, they're in collections because they can't pay it, because they didn't understand that borrowed money must be paid back. Absolutely. Right? Mm-hmm. Right. And these are things that we hear and just like, oh my God, this person, I can't believe they thought like that. But you know what? It's more normal than we think. There's so many people who make these decisions and we think, oh my God, I will never do that. But listen, that's just you. But that person, you don't know their situation. That's why we shouldn't judge people based on the actions and the decisions that they made, because a lot of times people make decisions based on their environment, their situations, how they were raised, what they went through, That's how decisions are being made. So we have to have sympathy and help people so that they can see clearly, so that they can be on the right path to making right decisions in their lives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Very true. I think you mentioned one of the stories, but let me ask you this one first. What's the minimum credit score that you need to qualify for mortgage? I think you did a live on this recently, but
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
This question is a really funny question, right? Because I remember a client came to me and she's like, oh, I really need your help. Like, I want to get a home and my credit is so bad. What am I going to do? I was like, okay, what's your credit? She's like 700. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah. Isn't that good?
That's good.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, every lender has an appetite, a risk appetite. Right. And then also we're looking at, especially if you're going to do less than 20%, we have CMHC, we have Sagen, we have Genworth, who are the mortgage default insurers. Right. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, depending on your profile, and also mortgages is about the story. What is this client's profile? What does it look like? How do we pivot it to get the maximum results?
Yeah.
So a lot of times you can get a mortgage with 600 credit score. Right. And it all depends on what you're willing to, because, some lenders, will look at, okay, 600, maybe depending on everything, maybe you might have to go to a B lender, right? An alternative lender where you have to pay a lender fee, but it all depends on your profile. Why are you at 600? Mm-hmm. Is it because you're overutilizing and that's why? Do you need to, are there some things that you need to do? So everybody is different. Everybody's situation is different, but the minimum credit score actually is about 600.
Okay. So tell me, you mentioned briefly about B lender. So let's go through the ABCs of lender stages.
Yes.
Yeah. Go through that. There's A lenders, B lenders, and C lenders.
Yes.
Tell us
so we have your A scheduled lenders, which are usually like your monolines. You're looking at your banks. Mm-hmm. And then also with your banks, because, before we only knew, and I think that's why sometimes it's hard for brokers because, people just think that mortgaging is just about TD, RBC, BMO, the well-known ones. But I think a lot of these other ones that have joined the market saw a need, right? That a lot of people were being declined for certain things. So we're going to create a product where even though they might not look like your average client, they can still fit in a mold. Yeah. Right. So there's no more gray areas. There's no more box. Right. We're going to at least, if everything looks good and the story that we're telling is okay, we can fit people in the right spaces so that they can get their mortgage. Mm-hmm. So let's say if you can't get into, let's say, your banks, your monolines, we're looking at your MCAPs, your radius, your thing, then we can look at B. So B is for somebody, it's usually a short term. Yeah. You can do long term, but it's usually short term where you can look at, okay, maybe this client went through a bankruptcy or this client went through a consumer proposal. Like I said, every lender has their own guidelines and their own risk tolerance. Maybe this client has, some debt that are showing on their credit, even though they paid it off, it's still negatively affecting them on their credit. So that's where you'll be able to take them outside. Right? Let's say if this client is a business for self and they don't have traditional income, right? Then you can take them to alternative lending where there's usually a fee, right? That they will have to pay. But even with this fee, if you look at the long term, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't want to pay no fee. But if you look at the long-term benefits of holding real estate, the amount that you pay now will be nothing compared to the benefits that your property might grow, the growth that you might earn in the long run. And that's the thing I want to caution people. A lot of us are short-term thinkers. That's why we can never level up on our goals and our dreams because we're so caught up in the now. Yeah. Right? We're so caught up in the now. Life is not about the now. We need to start thinking, okay, what do I need to do? That's why a lot of times we hear people saying reverse engineer things, right? Because if you think of the long term and if you think of the far near the vision, right? The vision is always big. The vision is always hard to see how you can do it. But it starts with a vision. Then you build, right? Then you map it out to the tangible things you can do now to get to there. A lot of us are thinking about the now, even when it comes to our finances, even about the credit and the decisions we're making. It's about now. But now never did nothing for you, because listen, you being in your now, you still have bad habits. You still have this, but why don't you challenge yourself? Look, beyond yourself. Because at the end of the day, everything we're doing, I always say this, everything we're doing is not going to impact just us. It's going to impact the next generation, because the decisions from the previous generation is the outcome that we're living now. And a lot of us are complaining that, we don't, the world is this, the world is that. So why don't you change it so that the next generation, right? Get away from yourself. It's not about you, right? It's not about you. Everything is bigger than you. So we need to be long-term thinkers, right? So that we can actually start to make strides in our lives, right? Because right now, I always preach about this. Because I also preach and I also do Bible study. And I always say this, right now your situation is an illusion, because you have the potential to do bigger and better.
Yes.
So look in the future, right? Have a vision, somebody. People have visions, okay? Have a vision. Have a purpose. Have a vision.
What do they say? What the Bible says, that people perish for lack of vision?
Lack of knowledge.
But we're going to change it to vision today.
Yes. People perish for lack of vision. Like, have a vision. Have something to live towards. You get what I mean? Live for. Absolutely. That will motivate you each day. Because at the end of the day, when you look at your postal code and when you look at the dryness around you, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to have something to hold on to.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it says hope deferred makes the heart sick, because you need some hope to hold on to. That's beyond what you're looking at. I live in Jane and Finch. So what? People lived in Jane and Finch and they moved out. Yes. I live in Rexdale. So what? And people get mad when I say that. So what?
Exactly. So what? Yeah.
So what? Because you don't have a vision. That's why you're still there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, there you go. And that's important to inspire people, but it also depends on where you grew up and who the people you're around.
Yes.
So we really have to change our circle if we want to elevate our mind and where we're going. So with that in mind, what are some steps that we could take in the now to get us to where we need to go in the future when it comes to credit, when it comes to mortgages, repairing credit? What do we need to do now to help us out?
One thing that we need to do now, and I even had to do it in the beginning of my business, is we need to be okay listening to our own voice.
Yeah.
And our own self. Because one thing that I've been very on and talking about lately is, listen, sometimes we need to even stop listening to our parents. Like,
say that again.
We need to stop listening to our parents. We need to honestly see who is the person giving you this information? Mm-hmm. What is their mindset? Are they giving me this information from an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset? Everybody that gives you advice, analyze them.
Yes.
Even the Bible, what does the Bible say? Right? Test all spirits. Okay. It's the same thing. Don't just take people's word for it and just make that, your story. Challenge people. Challenge people's thoughts. Challenge everything. And that's how that's what the Bible is talking about. Lack of knowledge, my people perish, because we are not expanding our wisdom. We're not expanding our knowledge, because if somebody tells me something, even like kids, when 2-year-olds and they're like, why? We think it's annoying, but that's what we all should be doing. Why? Why is that? Why should I do that?
Yeah.
What have you done?
Yeah.
You're telling me to do that. Even when you're dealing with even a coach or anybody you're dealing with, what have you done?
Yeah.
Why should I do that? What are your results? What did you get from it? Right? Interview, because if you're going to receive what people are telling you to do, right? And let's say they're giving you let's say scarcity advice, and then now you take that scarcity advice. Now you become you have a scarcity mindset. You don't have an abundance because you're looking at the eyes of somebody else. Even our parents, yes, we love our parents, but sometimes we need to even challenge, because there are people out there who take their parents' word for it, especially even, oh, mom, I want to start a business. Oh, why you want to do that?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
And they discourage people.
Yep.
And it's like you came in all excited already, and they discourage you. And then because they're your parents, they're like, oh, maybe I'm not meant to do that. And then now the dream, the purpose, the goal that God placed in you, now you're going to now have it. You're going to bury your talent because somebody told you, why do you want to do that? Right?
Yeah.
We need to stop doing that. And that's the thing. Even people who we love, people who we hold high esteem, challenge their thoughts, right? And listen to yourself. Listen to that inner voice in you. And that's what the greatest lesson that I learned, right? Is your voice is enough, right? Because everybody has a purpose. Everybody has, in this whole thing, I always say that the world is like a mastermind, a big mastermind. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody has a role to play. There are people who are out there playing roles of discouraging people, because that's just what they do. Yes. Because they don't know how to hound in on their gifts. So they're out there, annihilating people's gifts because they don't know how to stand in their own truth. Okay. People do that. Yeah. But when you allow those people to take away and snatch away your dream, it's not that person, it's you, because you made a choice to listen to them and not to yourself.
Absolutely. And
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes our parents don't know any better. So that's why they do and say the things they do. So I guess we have to leave a little space for grace, and move on, and do our thing. So
yes.
We got to break the cycle.
We do, because sometimes maybe our parents are looking for us to have the vision to move so that they can be empowered to move. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've been wanting to do this thing the whole life, but because sometimes they'll advise you based on what maybe they try to do it. Like even when sometimes you watch movies and it's like, oh, the daughter wants to be a singer, and because the mom had issues and she got this and she went through trauma, she now discourages her child not to do it. And then her child, because that's just the zeal that she has, she finds a way to sneak around. For example, Sister Act 2 with Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly what happened. Right? That's exactly what happened. But that's the thing, because at the end of the day, sometimes you can be the light that lifts people up when you are walking in purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you've heard some pretty wild things. You mentioned a couple above, but tell me some stories you've heard about why people have bad credit or, things like that.
Oh, I have crazy stories.
We're ready.
This is the thing. A lot of people have that. This is the thing. And this is what really breaks my heart is good people having bad credit.
Yeah.
And when I say good people having bad credit, is good people having bad credit because they helped somebody out. That's one of the reasons that I find a lot of times I have like at least 3 or 4 clients who are in that predicament because one of them, I think somebody needed, she was getting evicted and she needed rent money. And she went and got a payday loan so that but then her friend, like I said, people don't understand the concept of borrowed money.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that they need to pay it back. I have another scenario where, somebody got their parents needed a phone. Their mom and their sister needed a phone.
Right.
They got them the phone. The people never paid a phone bill. And as a result of that, the account got canceled. Now they owe about $7,000 because people, when the money's not yours, people want to get big things, right? People want to get the iPhone 13s and the iPhone 12s, the most expensive stuff, right?
Of course.
And nowadays, the way contracts work, if you think you have to pay back the phone, because now we put the way the structure is when you're in a contract, you have to pay back the phone. So now she's out, and when she approached them, they started to fight with her. right? And now she owes about almost $7,000 as a result. And then also they were calling long distance, right?
Yes.
And these are the things, like, you try to help people, right? And then people do this to you. So it's like, that's why sometimes people are like, I'm just not even going to help people. Yeah. And then a lot of times too, I see a lot of people, like I said, those Usain Bolt runners from collections.
Yes.
And predatory lenders. And I want us to really have a big disclaimer for this, right? Majority of Black community, a lot of people in marginalized communities have collection debt because of Cash Money, Cash Stop, Money Mart, because of payday loans, because of Fairstone, because of Easy Financial. And I'm listing all of these because all of these are predatory lenders.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
There are predatory lenders. I even one time had a client go to even those car loan places. Every time, listen, if you're listening to this, every time you hear, oh, we will approve you, no credit, low credit, this and that, run away.
Yeah, because high interest rate, right?
Yes. I had a client, a car loan with 19% interest on a car loan.
That's like
how are you ever going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She hasn't paid down that much because it's 19% because and that's the thing, when we become desperate and we just start going anywhere, right? But the thing is, the goal is for you to identify what did I do? Why can't I get a good interest rate? And start to address that. Because sometimes it's easier. The worst thing I saw was somebody in collections with $100.
What?
Payday loan.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, people are in debt and people have destroyed their credit for nothing. Right? Right? And I tell people, just pay it. Why are you even getting payday loan? Because at the end of the day, if you need a payday loan, that means you can't even manage your finances, because as soon as that money comes, you're probably most likely not going to pay it because you need that money to pay for something else.
Right.
And that's why those companies, if you notice, and that's the thing, look at where they're located.
Listen.
Look at where they're located.
I've been paying attention. Yes.
Pay attention to where they're located.
Yes.
None of them are located in affluent areas. They're always located in marginalized communities because they prey on your desperation and on your lack of financial education. Right? They prey on that. That's why they're called predatory lending.
Absolutely.
Their targeting is not for people who can get it's for you. So we are buying into and making these companies money. Even like the other day, I'm like, let me do some research here. So I called, I think it was like Cash Money. And I was like, oh, I want to get a line of credit. I just wanted to know what's the interest rate on the line of credit. When the person told me what the interest rate on the credit, thank God, I always say, thank God that he was the one holding the steering wheel, because I could have gone into a ditch somewhere because I was shocked.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
46% annually.
Excuse me?
46% for a $10,000 line of credit annually. 46%.
Wow.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. Banks are charging about 4 to 6%.
But that's the thing. They don't really advertise that.
Yeah.
If you look at the advertisement, it's always about the money. And also it's like, oh, and then he's like 3% monthly. So they're probably advertising that part because because remember, their advertising is based on trying to get at your emotions and your feelings, because a lot of people were emotionally immature and we make decisions from that place. Right? And that's why a lot of these things get us, because we think, oh, it's easy, or I'll just get it. Even payday loans are about 15% interest.
Yeah.
So how do you get yourself out of it? Right? The only way you can get yourself out of it is if you make a decision that, you know what, I'm going to educate myself financially.
Yeah.
Right? I can even be transparent right now and say, I did not get no financial education. For the past year, I've been educating myself.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on a mission to help people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially through credit to find. And as I'm going on the journey, I want to educate people. You know, I remember when somebody challenged me to track my expenses, I was like, dude, we ain't doing that.
Because it's
uncomfortable.
Makes you vulnerable, and you become exposed, and it's uncomfortable for sure. Yeah.
Yes. But then I started doing it. Right.
Yeah.
And even I'm getting better at it, because sometimes we don't like to confront the negative things, but sometimes you need to confront those things, because those are the things that are going to bring you breakthrough in your life.
That's true.
Complacent. Yes.
Pacify.
Debt is complacency.
Absolutely.
Debt is comfort zone, because you will never grow if you sit there. So we have to be willing to go after the things that challenges us, because when they challenge you, you grow in your vision. Because now, if this situation was to come again, you know how to solve it. You know how to help people better, right? And that's what it's all about. Let us stop doing things for ourselves, because it's not about you. Mm-hmm. There's a mission. You have a vision and a purpose. And everything that you are doing, even today, even your platform right now, you know, you created this platform, but this platform was never for you. Your voice was meant to help other people. There are people tied to each one of us. Absolutely. So when we are not doing and living in our God divine purpose, we are actually being selfish, because there are people waiting to hear our voice so that they can get up.
Absolutely. Now, with that in mind, hearing our voice, when do we start, talking about credit? What is a good age to start talking and thinking about credit when we're talking about the younger generation? Yeah.
I love this question. I always tell people, you can always talk about finances with kids, but if you want like a great case study to really make the impact, I would say that you can start teaching them around maybe 13. Because I know kids they can get their first credit card in Ontario at 18. Yeah. But I challenge you, start at 13. The reason why I put the age of 13 is because at the age of 13, that's when you can add a child as an authorized user on your card. Okay. So let's say if you have 2 cards and you have a 13-year-old, you can, let's say if you have $1,500 or $1,500 on that card, bring it down to maybe $500, right? And then you get your child, add him as an authorized user. And as an authorized user, the card comes and it's in his name. So you can tell him that this is his card and that this is how credit works. And that if he does this, he's going to be fully responsible to pay it. Right. Right. And let's say if your child goes to, let's say, the Nike store and decides, you know what, I'm bold. I'm going to buy a $300. And that's why you have to have the financial literacy conversation, because your child will think twice. Because one thing about kids, I have 6 kids, okay? One thing about kids, they don't like spending their money. They like spending other people's money. Do they ever? I have 5 and they're very skittish about spending their own unless it's something they really want. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Because when you give them that card and say, this is your card, they're going to think twice. Yeah. Right? They're going to think twice. So let's say if they go out with their friends, or let's say your child is let's say travels for basketball, and that's a card that they have to kind of, so that because you're not there and they're with the coaches, they can use that card, right? Yes. So let's say if your kid, because your kid is fully educated, because you're not handing off the card without education, you're teaching them along the way. So you have to tell them, whatever you use, because this is in your name, you have to pay it. And a lot of times, I know we do a lot of online payments, but just to make this more impactful, take your child to the bank with the statement and let them pay to the teller. Show them what it actually is. Show them that when we get bills, we go and we pay it. And this is how we pay it, right? Whenever you're having, let's say, your family financial nights or whatever, have the children involved. Have them involved. Have them understand what the family's finances look like, right? Depending on the age, you will kind of withhold certain information because you don't want them to be overwhelmed. Right. But I think once we start involving them and having them an active participant in the financial decisions in the household, it will help them to make better financial decisions because they will think before they spend rather than impulse before they spend.
Perfect. And I never thought about adding my kids to that. That's something that's different. I'm going to have to give it some serious consideration. But also, given the current market, we see how, the average price for a home, detached home, is 1.3 million. So we're looking at sky high prices. It's crazy out there. What question? It's crazy out there. What questions should we be asking ourselves before we decide to buy a home?
I think the question is, because a lot of times I always tell people, listen, the market does not dictate your dreams.
Right.
Right. Even like when it comes to the environment and the economy don't dictate your dream, because if you allow the economy to dictate your dream, you will miss out on the possibilities that are not being shown. Because the news, and even turn off your news, stop reading the paper, because every time you look in it, they're always telling you what you can and what you can't do. It's always what you can't do. Right? It's always, first-time home buyers, you will never buy unless you have your parents. And then because of that, we make assumptions about our situation. I was able to help a client who came to me and she was told she would never be able to buy. She came to me for credit help. And I told her, listen, give me a day to show you and your husband that you can buy.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we got them a property closed. I met them ending of, let's say, September. They closed on a mortgage in October.
Wow.
Because the thing is, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. So I think one question you have to ask yourself is, what do I have in my hand?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't use what's in other people's hand, right? What do I have in my hand? What do I have? Right? What do I have? How is my finances looking like? What is my income? Am I buying on my own? Know where you are. Am I buying on my own? Do I have a spouse that's going to be helping me? Do I have a co-signer that could potentially help me? Do I have my down payment? I've been saving. Do I have RSPs? Get to look at what is in your hand, what you have control over, because you don't have control over the market.
Mm-hmm.
But what you have in your hand can control the market if you know how to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? So start asking those questions. And then once you know that, then you say, I have this. Who can help me?
Mm-hmm.
Who can I be aligned with? Do I need to speak to a financial advisor that maybe can put a plan in place to help me? And is there a mortgage agent who can help me get my numbers together? Mm-hmm. Is there a realtor who can help me get my numbers together? Right? And let's say if you can't do it on your own, is there somebody in my family that I can ask, that I can trust? Right? That I can do this with? Ask yourself those questions, because those questions are more important than you asking how much is the average home price in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know your situation, then you're going to just assume that you can't buy.
Right.
Right? You can't buy. And it's all about action. I have a client right now that, we met and I put a plan in place for him. And I will say we worked together for about less than 2 weeks. Yeah. And he put an offer on a house and he got it. And the thing is, and we always say this is a God thing, because I'm very if you hear, I'm always talking about Jesus, because Jesus is the foundation of everything. He's the foundation of my business. Okay. Yeah. So I always tell him, and we always this is a God thing. He bought a property because we saw what was in his hand. And I love that he was motivated, because he said, I do not want to pay, because he calculated how much rent would I pay if I wait another year. Mm-hmm. He was not willing to pay $31,000 for the next year when he could use that $31,000 to purchase a home.
Right.
And he was serious about it. He started looking at what is in his hand. What do I have? What are some oppositions? What are some, look at all of those things, because once you start to really make a plan of action, when those oppositions come, you already factored it in. So they will never get to you.
Yeah.
Right? What are your obstacles? And we were able to put a plan in place. I connected him with a realtor partner, and he purchased a home. The home was listed for $649, and then it was dropped. And then the home was listed for $624, and he got the home for $620.
Woo. Okay.
He got the home. This was all, like I said, from the moment we started talking, he's just like, listen, I don't like to talk. I like action. So what's the next step?
Right.
Let's go. Right. And that's what we need to be. We have to be action driven.
Yeah.
Right. When you figure out what you have, are you willing to go outside? Because the plan for him is, you know what? Maybe you live in Mississauga, right? I might not be able to live in Mississauga, but can we look at other locations that is still within commutable time frame for you, where we can get what you would want? Yeah. So we looked at St. Catherine, right? We looked at St. Catherine, and he found something that was perfect. It's so beautiful. It's been renovated and stuff like that. We have to be willing to get uncomfortable in pursuit of our dreams.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't, even a lot of times our community, we're so about the hype. Who cares about the hype? Because when you're dead and gone, that car, that Mercedes or that Porsche that you have sitting in your apartment rental parking lot, it's still going to probably have to go through your estate as a liability.
Yeah.
Right? So we need to start looking at what is going to generate, sometimes be uncomfortable. Listen, you can get a beater. It's okay. You don't need a Mercedes Benz that is where you're paying $1,200 a month on a car loan.
Right.
Just to keep up with the Joneses. Because the Joneses don't care whether you keep up with them or not. Right? We're pleasing people who don't even care.
And they're waiting for you to fail.
Yes, they don't care because they know you're unintelligent.
Ooh.
Right? They know you're not financially literate.
Right.
Right? So they're going to continue to watch you. And then it's like complaining, oh, it's like nothing ever want to happen to me. How do you expect to be, have limited, let's say, funds income wise, and then be having a $1,500 a month liability on your credit? That's going to drop significantly your mortgage qualification amount. Right? It's going to drop it.
Right.
Because that's a high debt that you're paying every month.
Right.
Right? So we need to be mindful of the things that we're doing. Right? Because all of these things, when you have debt on your thing, yes, you can have debt. It's okay. But a lot of times, some of them most of the time, it reduces our purchasing power.
Right.
Because we have to factor that into the ratios.
Yeah.
Right?
We definitely need that class that you're talking about, because there are levels to it, and you have to understand each level so that, you don't find yourself in that position. Now,
yes,
given the fact that, you've seen, we're all in COVID, there's been a big career shift. There's been major people leaving the offices, people switching careers. Tell me how someone would get started if they wanted to become a mortgage broker. Mortgage agent.
It starts with an agent first, but
it starts with an agent.
I think we all say broker, like it's the same thing. Okay, it's like everybody says, you say agent. Sometimes people are looking at like, what? Isn't it a broker?
Right.
But how do you start? I think you have to make a decision. What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Because I know that during the thing, people are losing their jobs, and people are just like, oh, this is just the easy business to do, so I'm just going to go in it.
Yeah.
And then they don't create longevity. Make a choice. Do something that you're passionate about. And a lot of times when I have calls with my clients for my credit clients, I always tell them that there's two things that I tell them. I always tell them, listen, the Holy Spirit is going to show up on this call. One. Secondly, I'm going to push a business out of you.
Okay.
Right? Because there is a business in everybody. Okay. Right. In terms of, I know that not everybody's entrepreneurial, but there's always something, because remember, you can make money with what you've been through.
Yes.
You can make money
yeah.
with with experiences. I remember I had a client, she's like, oh, she's been in HR for so long. I'm like, listen, my background is HR. Why don't you create a business where you're teaching people how to be employable? Where you're teaching people how to get into the market, the job market.
Yes.
People are in need of that.
Yeah.
People are in need of that. So you bringing that service to them, it's going to help so many people.
Absolutely.
Right? It's going to help so many people. If you're somebody that maybe loves, you have a strategy where you teach your children how to read, and you are able to teach your child or other kids how to read and get them on the reading level, you can teach that.
Yeah, definitely.
You can bring that to the market, because there's a need in the market for people's services and experiences. Absolutely. Right? Yep. But in everything, you have to be passionate about it. Yeah. Because remember, passion will produce endurance. Passion will produce longevity. Right? If it's something that you're just doing to make money, I always say, listen, people who are in the business for money making, they don't usually last long. Right? It's the people who genuinely care about what they do, who genuinely are there to serve, because ultimately it's about how I can serve people. Yeah. And I always say, when you're doing the right thing, money will come, because that's just how God works. Yes. Money will come when you're doing the right thing. Everything that you need. Yes. Everything you need will come when you're doing the right thing. But if you want to go out there and diminish people, try to compete with everybody and think everybody's out to get you, it doesn't work. Yeah. Because it's about collaboration. If you help me, I help you, the world gets better. Absolutely. Right? And that's what life is. We all have to help one another. We're all here to help one another. Right? We're all here to help one another. I help you, you help me, but you're not helping me because you want something from me, because that's not helping. Yeah. No, that's no, we don't do that, right? Yeah. We don't do that. We got to be kind. Like, the world needs love. Like, we got to be kind to one another. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah. Absolutely. Portia, I have so many more questions. It's unbelievable, but this podcast is just an hour. So I'm gonna wrap it up with this. Yes. You are a busy mom of 6. That's huge. Mortgage agent. Like, how do you find time to relax? What do you do in your off time to wind down? And you are also a teacher, so like, how do you find time? I honestly, that's something that I'm working towards, right? And I've been I'm learning to be selfish. I don't like using that word because that's just not who I am. Like, I'm always there trying to help everybody, but I'm learning to be selfish and to have boundaries. I learned the power of boundaries, even when it comes to your children. Yes. The power of boundaries. I always say, like, during the day, they're not home, so I get the time to be here by myself. And I've been taking breaks, not working throughout my day, taking breaks, even if it means sweeping my floor, washing a dish, or just unwinding and taking a nap, right? I do it. Yes, naps are critical. I do it, right? And that's what it is. Like, I'm just trying to, and it's a work in progress. Y'all pray for me, but it's a work in progress. But one place that I told my children it's non-negotiable is when I'm in the bathroom. That's a good one. It's non-negotiable. It's not, because that's my safe space. That's my time. When I'm in there, even when they barge in there, I already told them before, I'm like, I'm not going to be listening unless it's an emergency. I'm not going to be listening to you guys fighting or this going on. This is my time. So now when I'm in the bathroom, they don't really bug me because they know. That's a good one. I'm going to have to sit everyone down and have that conversation, because you're right. That's when they come to you and they barge open the door. Yes. They'll even burst open the shower curtain. And it's like, what? Yes. No. Like, no. Like, this is, and every time they come in or I hear my name, I'm like, what is the rule? Yeah. What is the rule? Yeah. We're going to have a sit down. We're not allowed to be in here. I'm like, okay, thank you. So turn around and go. I love that. You know what? We're going to have a meeting about this for sure. Thank you. Yes. No problem.
It's been a pleasure having you, Portia. Tell our audience where they can find you if they wanted to be a part of your ministry, or if they wanted to be a part of your book club, if they wanted to be, because you got a lot of things going on. I didn't even get
Yes,
to
I
some.
do.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
I
We're
do.
gonna have you back for another episode, but for now, just
Yes.
tell us where we can find you.
Okay, so right now I'm very prominent on Instagram. So Portia Does Mortgages. I'm going through a revamping and a rebranding, but right now it's Portia Does Mortgages. And also, if you go to my link tree, I was invited to a book club, and it's been amazing. We're reading a book called What Happened to You, and this is how we kind of also help ourselves and breaking a lot of these generational ties of traumas that are still on us, right?
Yeah.
And also, on April 15th, I've been doing a clubhouse. It's called Submitted to Serve room on Clubhouse. And we've been doing a devotional since 2020, January.
Yeah.
So now we are in since last year, January. But we are going to be starting again, April 15th. We are doing 40 days spending time with the Holy Spirit. So there's just so many things that I do. Y'all connect with me on thing. I have a credit academy I'm going to be launching in May, June. I have my credit website. I have www.gfmcreditsolutions.com. I have a freebie on there. You can go and just get my freebie. I have a lot going on. Reach out to me. Let's connect. Let's align ourselves together and make it happen for you, because you know what? Your dreams deserve a chance, and credit or no obstacle should ever stop you from achieving what God has said about you.
Ooh, well said. Portia, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another great episode. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, as all these things help to keep the podcast alive. Take care. Until next time.